I wasn't really planning to do this, but it kind of was brought up in the comment section of the video over on the main channel, Council of Geeks, that I did talking about the most recent episode of Star Trek Discovery. Link there if you haven't seen it. Heads up, I get emotional about that one. And the topic of Supernatural and the character of Castiel, forgive me, I don't watch the show, came up. Now, I'm not going to spend as much time talking about this, and like I said, I don't expect to get as worked up, but it is kind of ridiculous. So, for context, Supernatural is a show that is finally ending at the end of its 15th season. I remember when I lived in friggin' New York City and I had friends who were into it and, they were like, oh, you should get into it. I'm like, oh, well, like how many seasons of it? Oh, well, like, and they were going, oh, well, its fifth season is starting soon. I'm like, that seems like a commitment. And I remember one of them actually telling me, oh, it's probably going to wrap up soon. Anyways, this show has been around for a long time, and it's watched a lot of things evolve in terms of, other shows, in terms of its own fandom and things like that. Now, a big part of its fandom is the ship of two particular characters. Now, if you're not familiar with that as a fandom terminology, ship is short for relationship, and it generally, people who say they ship two characters means they like to either envision these two characters being together, or they do believe that those two are together, whether or not it is canonically in the show or not. And it's fairly common among shippers to do things that they don't expect the show to ever do. So in that vein, you tend to get an awful lot of queer ships from fans who would like to see that kind of thing happen, but don't think it ever will. And that was kind of what had gone on in Supernatural. It follows two brothers, the Winchester brothers. I said I haven't seen it. Like, I've seen a couple of episodes here and there. I don't want to act like I've never seen it, but I haven't encountered Castiel other than like in the background of one scene while my partner was watching it. So I'm not actually very familiar with him. But anyway, the two main characters are the Winchester brothers, Sam and Dean. Now, Dean, well, they both know another character named Castiel. Again, assuming I'm not butchering that pronunciation. If I am, forgive me. I'm sorry. But there's a chemistry between the two of them that resulted almost immediately in probably the most persistent ship of the show among the fans who wanted to envision Dean and Castiel being a couple and being involved and being in some way in love or lovers or what have you. And that's something that the show never went there. The show didn't really indulge ships too much, so far as I'm aware. But at the same time, like, it was around long enough and was very much, it went 15 years because it had a very active and engaged fan community. So the writers were very obviously aware of fans and what fans kind of wanted. And maybe they thought they were going to throw the fans a bone with this. But, so in the most recent episode, and the season hasn't quite wrapped up yet, but in the most recent episode, as of my recording this, Castiel confesses his love for Dean and then dies and is sent to hell. So the reason this came up in the conversation I had about Star Trek Discovery was I got very worked up at a trans character, the first theoretically, canonically trans character, apparently not even made as clear in the episode itself, despite all the pre-release build-up to it, but that's all that I don't have time to deal with that now too. But in that case, it was introducing the first theoretically, canonically trans character to Star Trek ever. And Star Trek is dang near 60 years old at this point. That was a big deal, but they are introduced and they're dead. That really, really ticked me off. Especially knowing that there had been build-up ahead of time. There had been a big deal about the casting of a trans actor, that they were going to be playing a trans character. Yeah, that was such a botch on so many levels. It really infuriated me. This is in a similar vein, but is a slightly different beast because it's not introducing a queer character out of nowhere and then killing them off. It's establishing an existing character as queer, but then as soon as that is done, they are killed off. And normally on Supernatural, again, based largely off of Liz and her telling me about it, normally talking about that show, my perspective would be, oh yeah, sure, he's dead. How long till he comes back? Except, like I said, it's the final season. And there are only 2 episodes left. And if you were going to kill people permanently, this is where you do it. And it's not a certainty that he's going to come back, especially given that, the heroes have crap to deal with that would not include going to hell to rescue him, which, so far as I understand the show, is something they could feasibly do. But even if they bring him back or the show ends and Dean rides off into the sunset saying, I'm going to go get him back, or what have you, it doesn't change the fact that they killed him as soon as they confirmed a queer romance. They still did that regardless. And I brought this up in the Discovery video. In somehow undoing it or rolling it back or later on retconning it, and I have the same complaint about the fridging of the character of Vanessa in Deadpool 2, if you're not familiar with that term. Fridging is a term where a character is killed solely for the purpose of motivating another character. So, they brought Vanessa back at the very end of that movie. I don't care. You still fridged her for the entire film. And I don't care if on Discovery, Gray somehow still exists in Adira's mind palace or whatever, even as his own unique entity. You still killed him. And it won't matter if they recover Castiel from hell, because you still killed him as soon as he was confirmed queer. And that's screwed up. I'm slightly more forgiving here than in the case of Discovery. Again, keep in mind, I'm not personally invested in either one, neither of which is a show I watch. So I'm very much, someone who cares about queer representation but isn't personally invested in these shows. So I'm not going to say that fans don't have a right to be angry. I'm just going to say that I'm not as angry about this one, and here's why. I really strongly suspect that from a writing perspective, as planning out this last season, that they always intended to kill him. But then they either realized, crap, this is our last chance to confirm this, or they thought it would be cute to confirm it at the very end before he's gone, and didn't think through how that might land. They just thought, and we'll confirm it, they'll be so happy. Well, guess what? People aren't happy about it. Because effectively what you did was give them something that they wanted and then immediately take it away. You don't get brownie points for that. You don't get to claim representation in any meaningful way when you go, hey, here's a quick gone. Now, granted, Castiel was a member of the show for a long, long, long dang time, but if you don't confirm him queer until the very end, then for all intents and purposes, for the run of the show, as far as any audience watching was concerned, he wasn't queer prior to that. And it's not like a Dora and Catra thing from She-Ra where their relationship was basically confirming their romantic affections for each other in the final episode of that, made clear that what the entire show had been, all 5 seasons, was actually about their relationship and their tearing apart and trying to come back together and trying to fix it. For everything else going on, that was the core of that entire show. That's not the case here. As important as Castiel might be, and as important as he might be to Dean, and as important as this ship might be to the fans, it's not the central point. You know how I know that? Because they got rid of him with 2 episodes left to go. If it was meant to be interpreted as the central thing, they would have done it in the last episode, but they didn't. And again, I don't think that there is malice behind this. I think there is carelessness behind this. And I'm a little bit more forgiving because, like I said, I can envision a way in which this happened as a little bit more of an oops than I could with Discovery, which Discovery, knew enough to cast a trans actor. They've had issues with Bury Your Gaze earlier on that show, way back in the first season, so they should already know that that was a problem. They've been consulting with GLAAD at various points. Like, they had every reason to realize that was a really bad idea, and they did it anyways. With Castiel and Supernatural, they should have known that this was a bad idea, but I can see how they might have missed that it was a bad idea in the process of everything else they were doing. Now, that doesn't make it okay. It's still not okay. But it doesn't feel to me like them going, hey, queer character, now they're dead. They wanted to confirm something that they thought was fun for fans, but just picked the absolute wrong circumstances under which to confirm it. Now, I'm not going to say that it would have been completely okay if they'd confirmed this, 6 episodes ago and then just still killed him anyway. Honestly, if they were always planning to kill Castiel, then it probably would have been best just to not confirm it. Because I doubt they killed him because they decided to make him queer. I think they were probably always planning to do that and then decided to confirm the queerness on his way out. And I can see that happening, and in the heat of the moment with everything else going on, tying up all these other things, tying up 15 years worth of a show, you miss what it means if you do it at that point. It's still not okay. It's still messed up. It's still bury your queers. It's just frustrating. I can't get as worked up about it because I can see how it could have happened by mistake. And I don't know in either case, but I could not think of a circumstance under which Discovery could possibly have just completely missed it. There were so many things that should have made them realize what it was that they were doing. And then even if they didn't at the point of the writing, the fact that they built that character up in the marketing cycle and talking up the representation in interviews and whatnot, no. That ticks me off a lot more. But this isn't okay either. And certainly my heart goes out to any fan who got excited at that confirmation and then immediately had it ripped away from them. That sucks. Cut it out! Supernatural, add that to the pile for freaking bury your gays, bury your queers. Just stop killing us, please. Just for a bit. Couple of years. Can we get just a few years where you let us live in media? Be nice. That's all I'm saying. What are your thoughts on this? Whatever they are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Usual stuff, like, share, subscribe. I've got a Patreon. I've got other channels. All sorts of stuff for you to check out. But you also don't have to. No pressure. I like to take a relaxed attitude around here as best as I can. So just come on back next time you need a break.